Gabriel Montoya of MaxBoxing.com and Leaving the Ring Radio. Joined me on the Sports Buffet podcast earlier this week. We talked Victor Ortiz, we talked Canelo Alvarez, and we talked much, much more, as well as some good old-fashioned failed drug tests as well. Antonio Tarver, latest victim. Gabriel Montoya right here on the Sports Buffet podcast.
Love having Gabriel Montoya back on the Sports Buffet podcast. MaxBoxing.com as well as Leaving the Ring Radio does a great job with David Dueñas on that program, which you can hear every Thursday. But, Gabriel, we talked about it last time when you were on about the drug testing in boxing, and son of a gun, another person has failed a drug test with Antonio Magic Man Tarver. Talk a little bit about what you know about that situation.
Okay, what he tested positive for is the anabolic steroid drostanolone. And that is... It's basically used by like bodybuilders during what they call the cutting phase. You're cutting weight.
Right.
Also, you're losing all that water weight, so you look more cut up. You look more muscular. But mainly, it's for cutting weight. That's what the term is. And it's an injectable. I don't know if he's had his B sample tested. I know he tested positive, and then the CSAC later, California State Athletic Commission later confirmed it. And this is for the June 2nd fight with Beef Coyote. So where they're at right now, they fined him. He made $1 million. They fined him $2,500. They'll really likely get a suspension. I think he's lost his license already, so he'll probably get like a 9-month suspension. He doesn't fight that often anyways. It's not really going to hurt him. And that's just kind of where we're at. I imagine he's going to lose his Showtime gig. If he tests, a lot depends on, this is all just speculation, but a lot depends on him testing or not testing that B sample. If he tests it and it's positive, yeah, he probably loses the job. There's a lot of ifs to do. This is not like on Roberto's situation where he tested positive for traces of nandrolone, but nandrolone metabolite, where there's contamination with different supplements as a possibility, and there's hundreds of cases to support that theory. In this case, if you're using drostanolone, you're probably had it injected. It's an injectable. It's not probably you did. I'm not really sure if there's any sort of oral way of taking it. Certainly, it's not something that somebody accidentally sprinkled on your Cheerios, in my opinion.
Right.
So
with Alberto and Peterson and Tarver, and we'll kind of put Tarver aside because, like you mentioned, with a 9-month suspension, if that came about, it doesn't really hurt him, and he's towards the end of his career. Yada yada. But with Berto and Peterson, is what they did gonna hurt them? Like when Margarito had his gloves, when he got the glove wrap against Shane Mosley, and that kind of tainted his career. Is something like this gonna hurt Berto and Peterson to where they could maybe really struggle in getting big fights again?
Yeah, I think they'll be back in big fights. I mean, Berto's without Heyman. Peterson, I think we'll find a promoter like Top Rank's always used him in the past. I predict he'll probably go that route. Bob has no problem with fighters that have a high profile that may be good or bad. All press is good press to Bob. So they can always go to Texas. I don't think you can worry about licensing with that guy. This is just my guesses. I think the problem is that Berto may not and Peterson may not have the public trust back. I mean, if you really look at doping like all across the board. I'm not looking at it just strictly boxing. I've learned a lot by looking at other sports and how they handle it. And look at Marlon Byrd this week. He tested positive for tamiflexin, if that's how you pronounce it. And it's an estrogen inhibitor. Now, if you had a history of juicing, you could have killed your testosterone production and put your estrogen production all out of whack. It's one like one I've been trying to write, and I'm trying to protect the man's privacy. Because it's a medical condition he was dealing with. I don't know if you follow baseball. I don't. I had to learn about Marlon Byrd. He was apparently a very good player. He'd been working with Conte since like 2008, 2009, somewhere in there.
Right.
But he got hit by a baseball in the face and was severely injured, apparently. And he lost a lot of weight in the process. I mean, it was rehab. Suddenly it wasn't about getting back in game shape. It was just about getting back his health. And he started working with Conte again, but things weren't the same. Looking at his batting average, apparently it plummeted quite a bit. To the point where you look at him and you go, this isn't a guy that was taking this because he was hiding how much juice he was doing. This is a guy with a telling anybody about. And he went out publicly and made the statement, Conte said, I didn't give it to him. Marlon Byrd has been, everywhere telling people this has nothing to do with Conte. And you got to look at it also in this other way with him. I know a lot of people will think I'm just defending Victor Conte, but you got to look at these things intelligently. Here's a guy that's known for being a genius, for creating one of the great undetectable drugs of all time. And then suddenly one fighter gets popped for, and the guy that he's not even really working with, but just giving his supplements to, tests positive for nandrolone, one of the most bargain basement, it's just dark ages stuff. And then the other one gets nailed for an estrogen inhibitor that would be easily masked if you were a guy like Victor Conte and knew what you were doing. It doesn't really make sense. The math doesn't really work. So that's why I look at all the drug cases. So you look at the original point, looking at Berto and Peterson, what they've done, Marlon Byrd just came right out and started telling people what was up. He hasn't really fully explained, but he's been forthright. The guy Larry O, they got banned in the UK for EPO use over a 6-year period, along with various other PEDs, totaling 13. And he got under the radar. They caught him through intelligence. But Larry O didn't do like Shane Mosley, who's on grand jury, and still denies it to this day and gets no respect for that. Larry O just came straight up. Yeah, I did it. This is how I did it. He came on our radio show for an hour and talked about how he did it. I think these guys need to be. I've explained better, I think, in my articles what happened with Berto and Peterson than either of them have. I mean, Peterson's been a little more forthright. He went on video. He did a great interview in the UK. I shouldn't be totally critical of him. He's handled it as best he can. But they canceled that hearing June 13th, where he's going to lay out his whole case. That's why I'm being critical of him now. I think that really hurt him. I think that might be not his advice, but legal advice, and I think it's poor legal advice. Berto, the same way, I think he needs to come forward and just say, I was stupid. I took stuff that Victor wasn't giving me, and now look where it got me. And I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I'll take no responsibility. I'll continue doing BADA testing or extra testing of some kind. I'll stay in the program and I'll prove that you're clean. I think Peterson should do the same thing. Everybody always forgives the guy that's forthright. Nobody likes the guy that, like Marion Jones, that denies it for 5 years and wastes taxpayers' money and then goes crying on TV, I'm sorry, I was guilty. Yeah, we know. We saw the tests. We kind of wish you had said something.
Well, let's get off the drug topic and move on to actual fights in the ring. Victor Ortiz this past weekend, maybe he wishes Andre Berto had been there, as Josesito Lopez got the best of him, breaking his jaw. I think Victor Ortiz probably has just as much of a problem now in terms of he looks like a quitter, even though, I know it's a broken jaw and people would, say Arturo Gatti or people like that would have fought through it. But this is time number 2 now, the other time being, I believe, the Maidana fight. How big of a problem does Victor Ortiz have in terms of, I don't know if taken seriously is the word, but I think you know where I'm going with it.
Well, I don't hold it. I mean, it was broken in 2 places. I guess it's just degrees of greatness, right? The guys that are, Arthur Abraham even. I don't know if I consider him great, but in Miranda, he had his jaw broken in 2 places, went pouring out. It was a horrific fight to watch. And there's clearly something wrong with him. Did finish the fight. He ended up winning the fight, on the scorecards anyways. And then he came back and he knocked Edison Miranda out a few years ago. It probably is his last really great win. And then it all kind of decline after that. But he fought on for years and years, and he had the same, from what I'm understanding, the same kind of injury. Broken jaw in 2 places, screws in the jaw, the whole bit. Victor, he just decided he opted out. He opted to not look for another way to win the fight. And people always hold that against him. And I guess it's his choice. I don't hold it against him because it's his face and it's his life. But, like somebody said to me, he acts surprised when he gets injured. He doesn't realize he's a boxer.
Right.
And I just he handled it. I call him Jack over just immediately. Dude, my jaw's broken. I'm done. But it's a European way of looking at it, which is just a competition. Sally Klitschko quit on the stool because he had an injury. He's well up on the cards. Sorry, my rotator cuff is out. I'm done. And he's gone on to be a great champion. But I don't know. Victor's you're right. I mean, it's the same building, right? Maidana was at the Staples Center as well.
Yeah.
And both times he kind of had to walk away when the going got rough. It's like to the late John Wooden says, sports don't build character. Sports do not build character. They reveal it. So maybe it's a case of that.
Well, and it seems like, a lot of Golden Boys prize fighters, or at least the big name fighters, have gotten older. With the exception, obviously, I think Canelo might be the face of the franchise now, unless you counted like a Mayweather as a Golden Boy fighter or whatnot. But it seems like, in my eyes, I hate to label Victor Ortiz as a bust, but I think Golden Boy probably would need him to step up just a tad bit more to kind of help out with the face of the company. I believe in the ring, but that's just my opinion.
Well, he's always exciting. I'll give him that, and he's had some weird fights. Like the Burrow fight's a great fight. I thought the Josesito Lopez fight was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was kind of bummed that I got banned because what a finish. But like, I don't know. The people that don't want to see him again, I'd watch Victor Ortiz again. I'm never unentertained. I thought he gave Floyd a good tumble. That was, to me, Golden Boy. They're just so young. They needed an opponent for Canelo. There's plenty at 154 for him to fight. So what did they do? And literally when they were announcing this fight, I did an interview with Oscar before they stopped talking to me. And he said, we want that Mayweather rematch. And I could tell Oscar was serious. As he was, look, he was getting to him. Watch that fight again. I don't care if anybody says, yeah, he lost control, but he was getting to him. And I agree with Oscar.
Yeah, I do too.
What did they do? Yeah, a lot of people do. Everybody wanted to see how that fight was going to play out because of the pace. And now looking back at the Cotto fight, the pace that Ortiz was going at, if he was able to withstand the damage, he might have gotten something done that nobody had ever gotten done. But we'll never know. But, so then Golden Boy, they obviously, at least in Oscar's mind, he's thinking, if this kid could be my avatar and beat Floyd Mayweather the way I didn't. And what do? With a plethora of people, with Sandy Lara, the guy that everybody wants to see fight Canelo Alvarez, they decided to announce Victor Ortiz is going to fight him September 15th. Right before he's going to top customer in Josesito Lopez. I'm sure what their matchmakers try to say to me, how they know their business, they've been around a long time, they make terrible mistakes on a regular basis. It's good for us because they're exciting fights, but in terms of building the future of their company, they're not very good at it. And the Victor Ortiz, from Maidana, from Mayweather, maybe even this fight, I didn't pick Lopez to win. I knew he was a tough customer. They don't really do him many favors. They don't know how to extend his career. I mean, his first defense was against Floyd Mayweather after Burrow. Burrow might be the only big mistake they've made. And that might have just been ordered by Al Heyman. So, I don't know. I would see Victor Ortiz again. That's a bit of a rant, but just looking at it, I don't really understand that company and the decisions that they make.
And, in terms of the other fight on Saturday, I don't know how many people are really going to be lined up out the door to want a piece of Matisse at this point now either, because arguably, you could say he beat Alexander and I think it was Judah, I believe. And then, Humberto Soto, to me, I loved Humberto Soto and still do, but I'm shocked Raul Caiz almost didn't wave it off before he even got back to the stool, because he was in no shape whatsoever to carry that fight again. And his corner made an absolutely outstanding decision not to let him go back out.
You're 100% right. I mean, I've followed Soto for a long time. I love his technique. He's got those great combos, but he's also got a great ability to stay at the perfect range. I mean, his footwork is just killer. And it's come out more as he's moved up in weight, his boxing skill. And Matisse just would not be denied. He just was like a buzzsaw. And that's what I loved about Lopez and Matisse, was they both came out with that prize fighter mentality of, I know I'm not really supposed to win, and if both of us are standing at the end of this, I'm going to get robbed. I'm going to go knock this guy out. They both set paces, mentalities, and tones that a knockout was the only thing that was going to happen. And it's pretty awesome to watch. I mean, Matisse, he's a problem for anybody at 140. I was watching Khan in the gym yesterday and shut out of the corner of my eye because I was watching another 140-pounder, Ruslan Provodnikov. And I think Khan is more of a 47. He's about to leave the division, from what I understand. But Provodnikov and Matisse, that's an awesome fight. Maidana, Matisse is a great fight. The 140-pound division is his to have, and it's going to be ours to enjoy for like the next year or so.
Final topic for you, Gabriel. Definitely, we'll do it again very soon. Always love having you. Let's kind of rewind a little bit. Pacquiao Bradley. How do you have it? How did you have it scored, if you can remember?
I was there, and I had a really bad seat, and It's a long story in and of itself, but it was my fault, actually. I was going to go, and I had like a fifth row seat, and then I was like, I'm not going to go, and then I changed my mind, and they gave my seat to somebody else, and I was at the back row. It was horrible. Live, I had a 10-2. On TV, it just, I haven't really like officially scored it, but it gets closer. I saw Pacquiao winning, like 8-4, 7-5 on a really generous day. But an hour before the fight, I was on Filipino TV, and I think they played here in LA. It was like a Filipino channel or whatever. This woman, Janelle So, who's a lovely lady, does reporting for that network. And she asked me who I had, and I said Bradley split decision. And my reasoning was that it's always better to build a brand off an established brand than it is to build it on its own, and that they would make more money in the rematch anyways. And sure enough, it was Bradley's split decision. And I don't care what anybody says, no corruption or whatever, this and that. I'm not accusing anything of anything, but it just makes too much sense the way everything happened. It just does.
So do you see the rematch happening? I know it's kind of going both ways from what I've heard, yes and then no. I don't personally care to see Pacquiao and Marquez for a fourth time, even though I enjoyed the first three. I don't need to see it again.
I don't know why people don't want to watch Bradley Pacquiao again. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I don't think it can happen next. I think it'll be maybe in a fight. I'm hearing that, somebody was reporting today that Manny's given Bob the marching orders. Get me Floyd. I'll believe that when I see it. I've stopped chasing that dragon personally. That fight's just not that interesting to me anymore.
But does that fight lose a lot of steam with Manny losing to Bradley, in your opinion, or is it still just as hot to everybody, general public-wise?
I just we're tired of it. I mean, it's not the fight that we all wanted anyways anymore. We wanted when they were prime. And they're not prime anymore. I mean, maybe it'll be a better fight, but the fight that we're, it's like chasing the memory of an ex-girlfriend. She doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
That's the past. And they were perfect for each other like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. They're not that anymore. Now it's just like a slow beat down, I think, by Floyd. Maybe he's gotten slow enough that Manny can get to him like some raw power, but in my opinion, Manny doesn't risk the way he used to. And the guy that took out Hatton and Cotto, that was the guy that was a problem. He's not that guy anymore.
Well, it should be interesting no matter what we see, but we'll definitely read you, Gabriel, at maxboxing.com, as well as listening to you on Leave It in the Ring Radio. As always, we appreciate the time. We'll do it again very soon.
Thanks, man. And if you like boxing magazines, I got my first cover for Boxing News in the UK. I think I saw that out here. So about the last 6 weeks in boxing. So check that out. I'm pretty excited. First cover. Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on.